still to this day, Nickelback is the butt of a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
I think that it stems from this. I
It
think there's
has
a lot
to.
of
Yeah.
bitterness from the new metal guys and the metal guys because of, Nickelback kind of came in and showed them all up. Back in early 90s, well, I guess back in the 90s in general, like I think there was one record label that everybody was on or everybody wanted to be on, that being Roadrunner Records.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
think that, you know, unless you're real deep in the paint on them, into nu metal, you tend to not realize the impact that they had on the genre. So I kind
Yeah.
of wanted to kind of do a bit of a deep dive on Roadrunner and some of the people involved because I think that's a very important nuance um, in terms of how popular the genre got. We've talked about Immortal in the past, and that was Korn and Incubus and 30 Seconds to Mars and those bands. but but Roadrunner was a whole host of other big ones, and um, and I think it's worth kind of going through and talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and again, I'm curious because I know you study. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious to see where this all kind of started from with Roadrunner because
yeah,
I don't know the story and how they kind of started and got to where they were and everything. But yeah, there
mhm,
was a period of time where it was like there was two things. If you were in a new metal band, there was two elements that you take it back. There was three elements that you wanted to have a part of, and if you could capture all three of them, you were huge. And those three elements was Ross Robinson, Roadrunner Records,
mhm.
and Ozfest. And if you could
Mhm.
get all three of those underneath your belt,
You were you were sitting
unstoppable.
good. You
Yep,
were
you were
sitting
sitting
pretty.
good. So I
Yeah.
mean, if you got one of them, you're probably going to do well.
And I mean,
But
and once we kind of get into some of this stuff, you'll kind of see it congeal with the ones who were super successful,
nice.
in terms of those three things. So, a bit of background on the label. It was a Dutch independent label, started in 1980,
Really?
and it was primarily heavy metal. So, like King Diamond, that kind of metal. Um, and bands like Annihilator, if you're familiar with them.
Sure.
Um, but then in the mid to late 80s, uh, they saw the arrival of a guy named Monte Connor. And that name will either, um, how do I want to say this? He was very ruthless in terms of what he thought of your band and still is, I
Oh,
hear.
Monty, yeah.
So it can invoke, feelings of sheer terror for some, but he joined Roadrunner, I believe, 87, 88, and quickly became the head of A&R for North America for them. Um, and he was responsible for a ton of new metal bands that he signed to that label. He saw kind of things kind of shifting in that
Yeah,
direction away from kind of the King Diamonds and more of the heavy metal versus,
sure.
the other kind of subgenres. So, I mean, he signed bands like, just go down the list in alphabetical order. He signed Amen, for those familiar with them,
Oh,
Coal Chamber, Down the Sun, Fear Factory, Machine Head, Sepultura, Slipknot, Soulfly, Spine Shank, 36 Crazy Fists, Typo Negative. That's where he was looking. So he's the guy that needs to be thanked for these
yes.
bands, to be perfectly honest, you know. But the label also had other, he wasn't the only A&R guy, so there was
Sure.
other people working, Dry Kill Logic, Il Nino, Stained, um, and the list goes on. And it's just wild that one
Yeah.
person can have that much impact
That's crazy.
on a genre,
Yeah.
you know. And this is a time, the Korn record was coming. This was around that time, that record was coming out, that he was signing these kinds of bands,
Yeah.
So, it was a very pivotal moment. And, we've talked before, a lot of this was kind of the LA metal scene,
Sure. Yep.
but I mean, if you're in LA, you're just going to go down to the strip and pop in and see these bands, and they were all playing with each other,
Yeah.
you know. But there was one kind of going back to something that you just said about kind of Roadrunner Records as an element, Ross Robinson as an element. Monty Connor signed Ross Robinson to a worldwide production deal for his imprint called I Am.
Interesting.
I am recordings. Yep. So if you look at, say, for example, the first Slipknot record, if you look at like a physical copy of it, you're going to see a little thing that says this is an I am recording.
Interesting.
hmm So Ross was released the debut from Slipknot. Not only did he produce it and recorded it, it was on his imprint.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
isn't that kind of wild? So
Wow,
Monte,
dude.
we have Monte to thank
No
for
kidding.
Ross kind of being that pivotal guy. Um, but uh, but yeah, um, yeah, he went on to do a number of different things. He went on to do Wes's Black Light Burns, and then of course Amen. I think Amen, sans the Slipknot record, Amen was probably the other big one that he did, the
Yeah,
'99 self-titled Amen record. And he's done things, outside of the kind of the nu metal world. He did some albums with The Cure, and kind of big things like that. It's pretty
sure.
wild, that
Yeah,
he had that impact. But that kind of brings us to another era for the label, and that's Slipknot, you know. And we've talked about Slipknot a whole bunch on this show, like
yeah.
a whole bunch.
How could we not?
hmm But Monty signed them in July of '88.
98?
98
Yep.
is when he signed them, July of '98. Um, and the story, like if you were to Google the story, it's actually kind of fun how it comes up. How Google has like Gemini comes up with the AI overview or whatever.
Sure.
It basically says that Slipknot was signed because there was a DJ in Des Moines, Iowa named Sophia John. Shout out Sophia, who was sending him the demo constantly, and then Ross fighting for him,
Yeah.
and that's why Monty did it
Interesting.
because of those two things, according to Gemini, anyways. But
Well,
no,
of course. Yeah.
that's the story
That's the
I've always
story.
been told too. So,
Yeah. 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 Yep.
pretty wild. But they were the first band to go platinum
From
on the label.
Roadrunner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh dang.
Typo went gold for Bloody Kisses, but Slipknot
Yeah.
was the first to platinum.
That's insane.
I think Bloody Kisses went platinum mid
Probably
two
later
thousands,
on.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it happened eventually. Um, and then of course I think October Rust, but
Sure.
I'm not
Yep.
totally sure on that one. But what's also funny about the Slipknot thing is they were in talks with, I believe it was Sony,
That's right. Yep.
at the same time, and Sony I think said some not cool stuff to him when they
Mhm.
turned him down, like something about them. If this is the future of music, then I quit or
Yep.
whatever.
I don't want anything to do with it. Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So they sent the dude a bouquet of dead roses when they went platinum.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what
Yeah.
he said. He said, if this is the future of music, then it was something like music has finally died or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
So
what
they
they,
sent him the bouquet of dead roses,
Yeah.
which,
that's funny.
I think is pretty.
I bet that was a Sean deal.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
actually kind of, there's got to be more to that story. And I'm sure there was
Yep.
other things that were sent to him also.
Yeah.
But for Sean, that's pretty
Spot on.
standard for
Yep.
him.
Pretty spot on.
But
That's funny.
the other thing, though, and kind of another era of this label, was I was calling it the Ron Berman era, who was another A&R guy there, but I'm just kidding. It was Nickelback.
Ah,
Ron Berman was the guy who signed Nickelback, and doing the AR thing, caught a demo from, I think it was a lawyer or a manager or somebody,
sure.
and went up to Vancouver and saw him, and was like, yeah, I have to sign them. Took him 3 months to convince Roadrunner to sign him, because he also had to convince them to go in a more mainstream rock direction.
Right.
Because if you like the list of bands that I just rifled off,
Dude.
that was the label.
Yes.
And you want to sign somebody like Nickelback. So he convinced him. Clearly it worked out for him.
Yeah.
But I remember all of the rumors that were going around at the time. Do you remember any of that stuff?
With Nickelback or?
Yeah, and Roadrunner, like the ones that I remember, like I remember hearing that The execs at Roadrunner, they only agreed to sign them so they could continue funding the heavier bands.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody talks about that. I think Nickelback
Mm.
even talks about it.
Yeah, do they? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm pretty
I don't
sure.
follow them
Yeah.
that
But I
much.
mean, there's got to be truth to it because if you think about it, yeah, they had all of that catalog, but again,
Yeah.
they were making their money probably some off of CD sales, obviously,
Hmm?
but
Sure.
it's I would say mainly live performances.
Yeah.
Had to have been because again, they weren't getting any radio play with any of those bands.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah. I mean,
MTV2, stuff like that or whatever, but
right.
you never
Well,
heard Dry Kill Logic on, the radio,
right.
but
Right.
Slipknot, you get a little bit, but
You got Wait and Bleed every once in a
yeah,
while,
Wait and Bleed.
but
And
that was the
then,
only one.
yeah. And then, yeah, I think there was, yeah, it wasn't really until they got into volume 3 that they really started getting kind of heavy
Right.
radio play.
It was all
Disaster
underground
Pieces,
stuff.
maybe, but
The DVD, yeah, that did very well for them,
yeah,
for sure.
but yeah, I don't know, man.
You know,
Yeah, either which
it
way, but
was
yeah,
it was all underground. It was all underground stuff. And I also heard, and I have no idea if this is true or not, but I also heard that Roadrunner had to keep Nickelback completely separate in terms of like the admin stuff, like
sure.
completely separate office, separate staff, because the staff was just so overloaded because the band took off that quickly.
Oh, I bet.
Um, that was the other thing I remember hearing, and I'm like, it makes sense. So like when, it became, and I think it's still to this day, Nickelback is the butt of a lot of jokes.
Yeah,
I think that it stems from this. I
it
think there's
has
a lot
to.
of
Yeah,
bitterness from the nu metal guys and the metal guys because of, Nickelback kind of came in and showed them all up
yeah.
in
Well,
terms of
yeah,
commercial success, in terms of commercial performance.
yeah. Because
Um,
they've sold. It says here, Nickelback sold over 50 million albums
that
worldwide.
sounds right.
Yeah, it's like,
That sounds like a real number.
yeah,
Sure.
sounds like a real number.
No, I don't doubt that
Yeah,
at all.
yeah, and it's like you got to wonder how many albums. I wonder if it'll tell me this. How
Like
many
all those bands
records?
combined.
Yeah,
Well,
has.
Slipknot's got to be up there. You know,
Yeah, let's see.
they got to be at least
So
20, 30
Slipknot's at
million.
30 million.
Okay.
So good for them. I mean, again, you're talking about a band that has no, I don't want to say no. Psychosocial was huge, but still it's
Yeah.
not any
That was
any
later on.
that was later on. But again, it's like Nickelback is pure radio fudge. I mean, it's like
Oh, yeah.
it's just cake and ice cream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and I don't like it, and I'm not, it's like I've never, and I'm not saying it to be like, oh, it was a fad. I'm not, like, don't get me wrong, dude. I like some cheesy stuff. I promise you, I like some cheesy. I am a huge Ace of Base fan. Okay, so it's like
Oh,
I
yeah.
like
I
some of the
remember that
cheesy
episode.
stuff. I've never liked Nickelback. I remember that
No?
episode. I've never liked Nickelback, and it's not because I'm like, oh, I'm not, it's their stuff's been way too hooky. It's way too
Mm,
catchy for me. And
hmm
it's like, oh my gosh, it just makes me say, no disrespect to them. I mean, it's good for them to be able
Dang.
to kick out some freaking hella freaking, memorable songs, but it's just like every single song that they comes on around, I'm like, oh my gosh, even when they first came out, because that's what happens when a band first comes out and it's got that hook. Like Godsmack or something like that, everybody just jumps on it. Like Limp Bizkit, everybody
Hmm
just jumps on it. Like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing. Immediately I was like, this is gross. I was like, oh, I can't stand it. Couldn't stand it, dude. It was driving me crazy. And I was like, one of the first people I was like, just dogging on them. Like, again, no disrespect. I
Right,
respect
right.
them because, dude, 50 million records that, God bless them. They've
Yeah,
they've they've done it. And I hear they're really, really nice guys and everything. So again,
yeah,
no disrespect. I just couldn't stand it. It's some
sure.
of that stuff is just too formulaic that it just is like nails on a chalkboard for me. Who is that? Dead Theory of a Dead Man? Is that the other band?
Uh-huh. They
Yeah.
were Chad
Can't.
Kroger's protege, also signed by, what was his name? Ron Berman. He
Okay.
signed them too.
Couldn't stand them either. Same
Hmm
thing. Just yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was,
And Shinedown. Oh, dude, this.
Shinedown was different. They were an on-roadrunner.
No, I'm
But
sure
I
they
know where
were,
I
but
know
I'm
where you're
just
going.
telling you,
Yeah, I
dude.
know where you're going.
I'm just like I'm taking this. show into a different direction today, but I am salty evidently. But no, it's like some of those bands, dude, it was just too cheese,
Yeah.
and it's just
Well, I mean, Nickelback kind of started the copycat thing. They had all their copycats and,
made a lot of money.
but I mean, they
Can't
still
blame
tour, they
them.
still sell out arenas. So, I mean, it was a formula that worked, and it
Yep.
is the entertainment industry and it's a business and all that. And,
Yep.
it did keep Roadrunner alive
Big
for
time.
a while. Um, but there's one thing that I do want to talk about before we get into where Roadrunner went and what happened and where it sits currently, because I do want to keep it kind of nu metal focused.
Sure.
So Roadrunner, they had, Roadrunner was worldwide, and Roadrunner Australia, and this is
Oh, that's
100%
right.
true. And
Forgot
I'm
about
gonna
that.
I'll put it in the video and I'll link it below when they were promoting, because Kill Switch Engage was also on Roadrunner.
Yep.
And so what Roadrunner Australia decided to do is they decided to hold a funeral for nu metal. Have you ever
Wow.
seen the video of this?
No.
I'll link it below. It is so dumb that it was so dumb it was hilarious. They have this dude kind of giving the whole thing, and
Like a
they're
eulogy or
they're
something.
putting the red hat in the coffin and the
Oh
all
my
that stuff.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah, and then they bury the coffin and the whole deal. And it was to promote Alive or Just Breathing. And I'm like,
My
okay,
gosh.
all right. I mean, that's a little much, but I see what you're doing, because it's like, okay, metalcore, I get
Right.
it. So I think,
Obviously. Yep. Yep.
that looking back and now knowing that that exists, because I didn't until I started to look into this stuff for the show, but I didn't know they did that at the time. But I think that was, as much as I don't want to admit it, probably the sign of Roadrunner going to stop signing bands like that,
Oh,
like the nu
totally.
metal stuff, and start to sign more of the metalcore stuff. Um, and so I think it was a little too accurate when looking back kind of at the timeline. Yes, there were, more nu metal stuff that came out, other labels and stuff, but I think for Roadrunner, that was kind of a sign of a different direction. The success of Nickelback, that kind of
Mhm.
thing, I don't know if Monte, I don't think he signed Kill Switch, but, um,
Well,
he probably saw it coming too.
probably. And again, it's like it's hard to yeah, I don't know, man. That kind of upsets me. But no,
It's wild though, right? That
it
they
is
actually did that.
wild
Yeah.
because well, I guarantee you they're probably trying to separate themselves of because like what we're just talking about, like they were known for the ocean of new metal
Yeah.
bands,
Yeah.
of the bands of the bands, like these
Everybody
were
wanted on Roadrunner.
yeah, everybody did. And it was like, they had to have gotten to a point where it was like, okay, we've signed all these bands and they're not making money for us. And
Hmm.
and what I mean is like at one point they were probably like, okay, Slipknot's our breadwinner. And then all these
Yeah.
other bands are trying to, ride their coattails in a sense, what I mean?
Right.
And so it's like, okay, so they're making some decent money, but then they sign a band like Nickelback also. It's like, boom. And it's like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, they're just rolling in this stuff. And they're like, okay, we made a bad decision by going all in the paint on nu metal, and all these bands and stuff that are basically making us thousands of dollars. Whereas this band, Nickelback, one band is making us billions,
Yeah.
And so
Well,
I'm
the
sure
wind
that it
changed
was
direction.
right. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, we're not these guys, you're thinking of those guys over there,
Right.
we're just going to turn and just start stabbing our own artists in the face, because we don't want to be affiliated with anymore.
Well,
If
they
with them,
eventually started to do that.
well,
Yeah.
of course, they clearly, I mean, if they're burying a red hat and stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's
And
horrible.
well, Limp was on Flip
Of
Interscope.
course. Yeah,
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 they weren't
yeah.
on Roadrunner, but I see what you're saying, and it's like, okay, well, if you're kind of, aligned with that genre, I would have been probably a little pissed off too, if I
That's
was
just
actively signed and working
hell
for
yeah.
Roadrunner. Um, but it's interesting that you bring that up, because kind of what happens kind of post funeral. in the years to follow. None of it was very positive. Sans Nickelback continuing to perform.
Yep.
They had a distro deal with Red Distribution, kind of go south, and it left the label about 15 million in debt. So they had to sell off
Really?
shares of the label, and that was just the beginning of the downward spiral for the label, because they were independent up until this time.
Sure.
So they took out a $50 million loan from, I forget who, somebody involved in the Red Distro deal. And then when that went sideways, they still owed that money. So they had to sell off 49% to Highland Def Jam. And that was, when did this happen? I don't recall when this happened, but um, but yeah, so
Wow.
that kind of started the trend, and then Nickelback ended up leaving in 2013, but that was only after Warner acquired everything. So Warner Music Group required everything in 2010, and then they started to cut. They started to cut staff,
Man.
all that kind of stuff. Monte left, went to Nuclear Blast in 2012. And a lot of those bands followed him because they started to cut a lot of those bands. So they cut Fear Factory, they cut Machine Head, they cut all these bands, and then followed him over to Nuclear Blast.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
And that's where Monty's at to this day.
he's still there.
Yeah.
So like, I would have followed him too.
Jeez,
Because I mean,
dude.
Roadrunner started treating everybody like garbage. Slipknot ended up leaving, I believe, after this last record. It took them that long to get out.
Yeah.
They're still on their website though.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But in 2018, they would become a sub-label for Elektra Music Group, which is also owned by Warner, and then eventually just merged into 300 Elektra Entertainment. So it's not even really Roadrunner
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's Warner,
It's completely.
Elektra Warner.
Man, that's crazy.
But take a stab at, there's two bands that are immensely popular right now that are still on the label.
On
Any idea who
Roadrunner
they are?
or on
Yeah.
Elektra?
Well, Roadrunner via 300
man.
Elektra.
So 3 bands that are on there.
Well, 2 that are pretty massive. One just won a Grammy.
Okay. Oh, interesting. And then are they old bands like from our era? Or are they
Newer. They started to, well, one is fairly new, but one kind of came around mid 2000s and late 2000s.
Are they nu metal bands?
It could be anybody. No. So
Okay.
Gojira
Okay, Gojira
is on currently, and Turnstile.
Turnstile. It's funny.
The other one I had was Deaf Heaven, if you've ever heard of Deaf Heaven. You probably like them.
Yeah.
But they're still on currently, and they have other bands, but none as successful as those.
I was gonna say Gojira's got to be pulling in some good money for them.
Can't imagine they're not.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all getting kicked up to Warner Music Group now.
Yeah. Whoops.
Which is, kind of too bad. So I guess where I'm going with all of that kind of backstory is that it's not what it used to be.
You're right.
It went from, this iconic independent metal label that everybody wanted, to being something nobody wanted.
Yeah, and that crazy,
Slipknot has some very not nice things to say about Roadrunner.
Oh, yes,
these days.
Yep. Well, they got screwed on their deal, is what it was, and they got put into a long ass deal where they continued to get screwed. But I mean, you would think a band like Slipknot, 30 million records. Granted, they have a lot of mouths to feed in their band too, But
well, yeah,
that was their own mistake. Maybe we shouldn't have had 9 guys in our band. But no, but yeah, I mean, like Corey's been on record saying, multiple times that they kind of got screwed, and
everybody does.
You would think a band that sold 30 million records would just be rolling in money, but they weren't. I mean, it was, they lived pretty modestly, and they have to.
Yeah, the money came from other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what, musicians have had to do, because, that's how the industry works.
Right.
The model is to screw the artist.
Yep. Oh, of course.
And everybody and anybody will tell you that that is the business model.
Yeah.
It might be different these days because I'm pretty far removed from it anymore, but I can't imagine it's not.
Yep.
It's like with the advent of streaming services, like now you don't have, physical sales all that much anymore.
Right.
Yeah, vinyl is kind of making a comeback and doing very, very well, but it's like it's nothing like it used to be.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, I'm sure there's some weird version of the 360 deal where, the record company takes a cut of literally everything,
Yeah.
tour, merch, all of it.
Yep. Yep.
Anything that you do, they're going to take a cut of. If you an
Yeah, it's
endorsement
crazy.
deal, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still like that, but I imagine it is because they
Yeah.
had to recoup the money that they lost from streaming.
Correct. Well, and that's like so you
So,
like yeah, you look at Limp Bizkit too. I mean, they have their woes as well with certain things that they screwed up on. Well, I won't say they screwed up on, but they just got screwed on, and
mhm.
like they have a deal where it's like I think they signed away all of their licensing rights for merch. And so
Oh yeah, that's why they don't sell any.
correct. So Limp Bizkit's like, well,
Yeah,
F it. We're
yeah.
just not going to sell any merch,
Uh-huh.
which is crappy for guys like, like who are
Got to get
big
it
fan.
all
Yeah,
bootlegged,
exactly. You got to get
which
all the
they don't
bootleg
care
stuff.
about.
They don't give a crap. They're probably like,
Which
hell yeah, I love that shirt that
y-
Limp Bizkit's misspelled.
the
You know?
irony there is just amazing. I started to watch a podcast earlier because it popped up um, in my feed, and it was Wes Borland. He was on this podcast called, I think it was just called Disrespectfully, but
Oh,
it's these
sure.
two younger women, and who I'm not familiar with at all. Um, and one of them's wearing a Limp Bizkit shirt, and
Right.
Wes, he just kind of looked at it. He was like, "Oh, yeah, cool." You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
That's
He's like,
funny.
"Hopefully, you didn't pay too much for it."
Yeah, exactly.
And
Because he's
she
no,
said,
yeah.
"Yeah, because he ain't gonna see any of that money." And she
Yep,
was like, "Oh, it
exactly.
wasn't cheap," and it was like a really like generic like photo of them and the logo at the top. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if you paid more than $20 for that,
Yeah. He got
you got
ripped.
you got took.
Yeah. Well, I just looked it up really quick, but coming back to
Yeah,
Roadrunner on the Slipknot ordeal. So
yeah, sure.
this just tells you like how, and again, it doesn't give all the details or whatever, but so they originally signed a 7 album deal in
Mm,
July of 1998. So right there is like as a young musician, you're thinking, holy crap, we made it. Like
yeah, my
7 records. Yeah,
trajectory is
this is a
there. Uh-huh.
career. Yeah, this isn't
Hmm.
a, well, we're going to do one album and call it good. It's like, no. But as an adult now who understands business, you're looking at that going like, we just hooked these guys because we know that they're going to do well and they're never doing anything outside of our umbrella,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
what band of that caliber, that sound is going to do more than 7 records? At that
right,
time, nobody existed doing that
right.
sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So they signed a 7 album deal, and it specifically excluded greatest hits and live albums. So
Hmm.
that meant you had to do 7 full
Full
on
length albums.
full length
Hmm.
albums that, like, damn, that's
Hmm.
insane. But again, on
Yeah.
the young person side, as a kid or whatever, you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, this is amazing,
Right.
we're gonna do
Yeah.
7 albums, we're gonna make so much money. And yeah, they got a $500,000
Hmm.
record deal with
In
that
advance.
was it.
Yeah. And I think, so that means Disaster Pieces didn't count. Inside the Nine didn't count.
Correct.
What was the live one? Um, I
uh
forget. But yeah, I mean, all those. So, I mean, I imagine those were probably, self-funded things,
yeah, yeah, so
or
the
no, I guess I take
records,
that back. The record company would probably participate in that too,
of
but it didn't
course,
count towards the
it
seven.
didn't count towards the
Yeah.
contract, and they
Yeah.
still took the royalties from it.
Sure.
So it says that the fulfillment of the deal for the 7 records was Slipknot, the self-titled in 99, Iowa in '01, Volume 3 in '04, All Hope Is Gone in '08, The Gray Chapter in 14, We Are Not Your Kind in 19, and The End So Far in 2022, and that fulfilled it.
Yeah. So they're done.
Yep, they're
I think they're
done.
just on their own now.
But now I'm like, after knowing, I mean, like kind of putting a different perspective on this, because I've unfortunately gone on record and said, like, basically since like volume 3, I've just thought that Slipknot just freaking kind of tanked a little bit,
Yeah. Like All Hope is Gone.
Yeah, All Hope Is Gone to me. No, gosh, no. There's some good songs on there. Don't get me wrong.
That wasn't a record.
But that was the record for me that I was like, It's over.
Really?
Because I'm telling you, bro, because
Oh,
to me,
I
that's their,
loved it.
I've said this before, that's their Walmart record, that was the one where I just Psychosocial to me is the worst song they've ever written. And it
Oh, there are
is
far worse songs.
on, I don't know. I beg to differ. No, and I'm just telling you, the reason I hate it is because that was what we were just talking about earlier about the farther you go with your
Mhm.
riff or whatever, the least amount of people you're gonna catch or whatever,
Right. Hmm.
and that to me was exactly what Slipknot did, whether it
Too
was
far
them
to
or the
one side.
label. They went too far in the middle, and
Mm.
they basically turned into Nickelback, with that song as far as I'm concerned. Psychosocial, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, and I understand
Hmm.
it. That's totally fine. I get it. But the thing is, like, this is when I knew it was over. Like when it first came out, I was like, "Oh, that's catchy," And I was like, "Okay, this is all right." And I remember seeing the video. I'm like, "This is kind of cool." Corey's vocals were real cool on it and stuff. I was just really happy that he went back down to the guttural screams from the kind of weird thing that he did with Volume 3. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool, and I loved his mask and everything. But I will never forget, I was standing in the frickin' DMV and I was standing in line in Lincoln, Nebraska, which if anybody's ever gone to the DMV in Lincoln, Nebraska, it sucks. Anyways, I was standing next to this lady, and keep in mind, this was probably 2009. So this is 17 years ago. Okay. Standing next to this lady, she's probably 58, give or take a year. And she's talking on her cell phone really loudly to her daughter on the phone. And she's talking about how she's can't wait. She just bought her tickets to go see Slipknot, and she can't wait to see her new favorite song, Psychosocial. And I was sitting there looking at this old woman, and I was going, okay, you're branching into my territory. And I'm just like I don't know how else to make this sound like, it just really irked me and ticked me off because I was like, here's this again. Now we're all old, so I get it, but we've grown up with Slipknot. This was like, again, 17 years ago. I would have been 30, 31, something like that. It was still fresh. It was still our thing. Gen X was still pretty young and everything. And here's this boomer who was talking about Slipknot, and I'm like, boomers are supposed to be like looking down at Slipknot and going like, that's garbage. I'm not gonna, and when I heard that woman say that, I'm like, it's over. Literally all hope is gone, because I was just like, they just got all of the people to like this super simple song. And
Hmm.
that's what it was. And it's like, I don't want to be that guy that's just like, oh man, the true artist, understands Slipknot and da 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 da. And if you like jump on this bandwagon with their simple stuff, I mean, every band's gotten that at some point, but I'm just like, that to me, it was like, okay, every show is going to be sold out with, huge arenas and stuff. And God bless them for doing that and everything. But again, people aren't coming to hear, Sick or anything off of the first album. They are here to hear Psychosocial, and then everything else is just going to be garbage to them. And I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox on my rant
Yeah,
here.
that
I'm sorry.
really, yeah,
It freaking
that
makes me
really
mad. And I've
pressed a
gotten in this
button there.
conversation a lot with people, and again, don't get me wrong. I freaking love the Slipknot guys. I love them to death. I don't blame them. They had to have made a bunch of money off of that song. I just, it's when you start seeing all these people online like, I'm gonna do my karaoke style of all hope or of Psychosocial, and it's just some person who's never sang or screamed before in their life, and they're just like reading off of a line like, I did my time, and they're just horrible. It's like everybody's just jumping onto this big
Mm.
huge bandwagon. I'm sorry, dude. You're
Yeah,
probably
go
like,
ahead.
I touched a nerve with Jeff today. I said I was a little salty today. I'm sorry, but I'll stop. It just, that whole freaking thing really just irked me,
Yeah, I
because I was like,
gotcha.
I've
I
lost my
gotcha.
band. I've lost, because to me, and again, I'll say one last thing and I'll
It's
shut
when
up.
it stopped being underground and
It is, and that's basically what it is, But it's like, I just think back to when I freaking heard Slipknot for the first time in 1999, and I was like, holy shit, what is this? And there's like
Hmm?
all the rumors and the mystery of like, dude, they got like three drummers, and my mind's going, because I was a
Hmm.
drummer at the time, like, they have three guys up there drumming on full kits and everything. Like, how does that happen? Obviously that wasn't the case, but there's just this mystery behind him and stuff. And it's like all of that
Hmm.
then was gone. It was just
And
like,
and
this
I
is a
think
radio song.
I don't remember when Inside the Nine came out, but that's when everybody took off their masks. So you
Hmm.
got to see their faces too. So a lot of that mystery was gone anyway.
Yeah.
I don't recall when that DVD came out. Um, but it's just like when Kiss took off their makeup
Yep.
for the
With
Kiss fans.
disco.
I hate Kiss, so I mean, you know,
Amen,
does
brother.
nothing for me anyway, but
Yeah.
kind of coming full circle. Slipknot, checked off all three of those boxes. You know,
Yeah.
Ross Robinson, they were on I
Oh
Am
yeah.
via Roadrunner, and Ozfest is what catapulted them, into where they went. And then Iowa came out, and
Boom.
yeah,
Yep.
then
It's like,
Disaster Pieces, and I mean, I likely wore out my copy of that
oh
DVD,
yeah.
like burned through it. I watched
Yep.
it so many times.
Yep. Gosh, it was so awesome.
Hmm.
Again, man.
So
That's when everything was so ripe and so
yeah,
awesome.
and that's when it was still weird and violent and all of that
Yes.
kind of stuff. And they got older and we got older and you
Yep.
know all that kind of
And
thing.
now all
And
we talk about is our 401ks and I bought a new fridge the other day,
yeah, it's like, hey, I just bought a new furnace.
That's right. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
It costs as much as a fucking car.
That's
Um,
no, but it is kind of cool though to think, with the whole Roadrunner thing of just like I really don't think there would be the Roadrunner that there was without Slipknot, and there definitely wouldn't have been Slipknot without Roadrunner.
um, I would say there wouldn't be the Roadrunner we got without Monte.
Sure. Yep,
And
I
then
get you.
Slipknot kind of took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
I think Monte, because I mean, he signed him,
Yep.
after what was a lot of convincing.
A lot of convincing. Yep.
I hear, but um, I think Monte had a lot to do with it. But yeah, Slipknot made it a household thing. And after Slipknot broke, every band in the country in that genre wanted to be on Roadrunner. That was
Yep.
that was the goal. And kind of going back to something that we were talking about last week with solicitation,
Yeah.
Roadrunner was not taking anything unsolicited because
Right.
they were just being inundated with stuff.
Yep.
Everybody wanted Roadrunner.
Yep.
And if memory serves, and maybe you remember, but do you remember? So Battle for Ozfest,
Hmm.
winner got a record deal. Who was the record deal with? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I have to look that up because if it was Roadrunner, this all makes perfect sense.
Yes.
But because it was Sharon Osbourne and all those bands were on Roadrunner. Well, the majority of
Yes.
them, anyways.
I
But
wonder, so they didn't have their
I actually don't think the winner ever put out a record anyway.
Sanctuary Records.
Oh, boo.
Boo.
Monty probably wanted nothing to do with it.
I agree.
He's like, I'm
Yep.
not putting out some reality TV
Yeah.
stuff, No
Yeah.
diss to whoever won because I don't remember who
A
won.
Dozen Furies.
A Dozen Furies, that's it.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Where are they now?
well. Good question.
Good question. Yeah, that was a whole deal, man. Yep. Yeah, man. Everybody talked about how they're going to be the biggest thing ever.
It's kind of, like looking back and watching some of that stuff now, it's painful,
Oh, I know.
because everybody's like, I'm gonna die for this and I'll starve and whatever.
Dude, it was.
And it's like it's history repeating itself because if you ever seen The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2,
Uh-uh.
you should check it out. It's Penelope Spears' documentary in the 80s about like hair metal bands, and well, not just hair metal bands, but mostly hair metal bands kind of coming up in kind of that Sunset Strip scene.
Oh, sure.
And they're being interviewed. None of them had record deals yet, so it was all this new thing, and they're just going on and on and on about what they're willing to sacrifice. And it's like some of the heavy hitters who became heavy hitters, the Poisons of the world,
Sure.
Rat and Warren and all these guys.
Mhm.
But then they had a lot of the bands that didn't make it. And it's difficult to watch those because they're like sitting there saying, I don't know what I would do if, I don't get this, or this is gonna
Right.
happen because I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make it happen, and then they go
Yeah.
nowhere. You know what I mean? So it's kind
Yeah.
of like, oh, dude.
Yeah, that's
Like
depressing.
I kind of feel bad for you because this is
Yeah.
tough to watch. This is kind of embarrassing. But Same kind of vibe with Battle for Ozfest, watching that back
Oh,
because
I
I
remember
kind
that.
of
Yeah.
watched that before we talked with Jesse from Narcotic a while about his experience with Battle for Ozfest.
Right.
I rewatched it and I'm like, oh, I'm getting Decline of Western Civilization vibes off this.
Yeah, that was the thing
Yikes.
though, man. I mean, it was
Yikes.
people wanted it so bad, and
Yeah.
it's like, and I'll say, given my take on this a little bit here too, because, and I've briefly talked about this, but my band before Downshift and Evil,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking with Roadrunner and it was, which is very interesting to me based on what we're talking about today and stuff, because the time that we were actually talking with Roadrunner and stuff was the time where they were starting to, fail.
Yeah.
So it was like 2000, it would have been 2001, which
Mm-hmm.
is right when everything was going,
Mm-hmm.
bad for them. Um, so that's very interesting. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, I'm trying to remember because again, I know that we worked out a deal. I'm trying to remember how we got them our demo because again, they didn't take solicited material. There was something I don't remember. This is so long ago. The thing is like I hate it. Like I have my Hotmail account from back in the day. It's got all the email records and everything that we did with all that stuff back then. But it's like I can't get into my Hotmail account. So it's like I'm trying to go off
Whoa.
of like I know it sucks. It makes me so freaking mad. Like I try to, I don't know. That's a whole nother story. But either which way, so I'm trying to go off of memory. But somehow or another, they got our demo and they reached out to us and they liked it and everything. I was like, okay, cool. And so we started talking with I wish I could remember this gal's name. And so but either which way, she liked it and everything. And then she was saying that she was working or a colleague of her was worked with Down the Sun,
Mm,
blah 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 blah. Midwest was really hot right now. They're trying to pick up as many Midwest bands as they could. They
sure.
really liked our sound, da, 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 da. I'm like, cool. And so but our problem that we had at the time was we did the cardinal mistake, which anybody listening and stuff, I promise you, don't ever do this. We had a following before with our previous band, and I say previous band, we were all the same members minus our drummer. But when we kicked out our drummer, he made a promise. We promised him that we would change our band name. And I was like, okay, fine, we'll go ahead and do that, and I figured now everybody will just follow along with us and we'll keep our same crowd of, fans and everything. And like we basically started immediately over and
Yeah.
that sucked. So cardinal rule, don't ever do that. And but anyways, but we were like, well, we're just gonna start right out of the gate with this new band with a new record, da 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 da. And we had already had all this experience before with our previous band, our previous record. It did well and everything. So we're like, we're just gonna do this and pick right up into it, and it didn't happen. And so what was weird was is like the cart was totally before the horse, where we had this great album that sounded really good, produced really well, wasn't selling anything because it was a brand new name of a band,
Hmm.
and we couldn't all of a sudden get any gigs anymore because we didn't have the
Right.
Vortex name behind it. And I
Right.
was like, what the heck? So we lost our total fan base, all that freaking, work and everything.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden they freaking pick up this demo and they're like, we love it. We want to see this, we want to see that. And so then they wanted to check out some of our live shows. They wanted to, and I'm like, we're getting like 20 people at live shows right now. It's
Hmm.
like, so
Yeah.
we're out hitting it hard, trying to, do everything that we did before to try to recreate our fan base.
Hmm.
And we're trying to ram it into a couple months and stuff of like years of building up everything we did, and it just wasn't there. And then so then they asked us if we could put together a recording of a live show before they sent somebody out. I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And then so we put on a free show in Fremont, and we tried to get as many people there as we possibly could, and it just wasn't. I mean, we maybe had, I don't know, dude, maybe 100 people show up to the actual recording, if that.
Yeah.
And then we had some problems or whatever with like stage setup and stuff, and then so like we ended up having some people leave, and dude, it was just a bad night. But we had a professional
Yikes.
recording film crew there, and they recorded the song that we did for them and everything, and it was cool. I mean, they had like lifts and everything, and they were like moving the crowd around to make it look like it was bigger and everything. And so we're like trying to do all this like filming, magic to make it look,
Hmm.
better and stuff. And it ended
Yeah.
up being a cool video and everything, which is cool. And then we did a free concert at the end of it and stuff. So everybody was happy. It was a fun night. It was a really fun night.
Yeah.
But anyways, we sent that in and, I, again, based on everything that was going on, in 2001, from what it sounds like, they were starting off when they started talking with us. I think they were throwing out as big of a net as they possibly could, but
Hmm.
obviously they got to a point where they're like, okay, now we got to start getting a little bit more picky.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so again, we probably worked with them for 6 months, going back and forth on, like, we want to see this, we want to see that, do this, do that, and so we're getting them whatever they wanted and everything, but we just couldn't freaking land that thing or whatever, because we just didn't have the numbers, and it's like
Yeah.
we couldn't hide it, it's like I'd love to say
Yeah.
that we were selling out freaking show after show and we had 10,000 records sold, but we just put the cart before the horse and had a good record, just nobody knew about it, and it
Yeah.
sucked, but it is what it is. But again, it was cool. It was a fun experience. We talked to a couple different labels. We talked to Aardvark Records. I think they're out of Australia, actually, at the same time and stuff. But like you said, Roadrunner was the one to go after. And the fact that we got to spend a couple months talking with them and stuff
Yeah.
is enough to toot my horn. I was like, that was pretty fun.
You got
That was pretty
farther
cool.
than I did with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty fun. So,
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was, kind of worth chatting through, for folks who may not be familiar with kind of some of the history there. I think it's important,
it is totally.
important to kind of know who did what and why and when and all that kind of stuff, and where some of the hate for Nickelback comes from. It's all of us just being bitter because they were on Roadrunner,
Yep.
changed the
Yep.
course of Roadrunner and where they were going, and you know,
Yeah. What a formula, though, of how everything, all the stars aligned for something really cool, and then the stars aligned again to basically kill the whole thing, just, I'm telling
extinction
you,
level event.
what killed it for him was when they threw that red hat in the coffin.
Watch the video, man. Yeah, like
Karma.
it's a weird one, man.
What's the
Um,
video again?
um, what was it? Like Roadrunner Australia Nu Metal funeral, something
Okay.
like that. I'll post a link.
Yeah. I'm going to check that out.
But it's longer than you want it to be.
Okay.
It just won't end. When you think it's
Just
over, then
won't
it just keeps
end.
going, and it's like,
Oh,
look, guys, you made your point. You are trying to like
yeah.
bleed this
Separate.
thing dry, and it's like, okay, you should have stopped when you put the red hat in the coffin and just whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, it's
yeah,
almost like how MySpace, was like, I don't know if you ever seen that footage of that party that they had, and they were like, Facebook was blowing up and MySpace was starting to die, and they had like a big company party, like Christmas party or something like that, and they, like, the new founder, or not founder, but the new CEO of MySpace or whatever, like, had the whole crowd like say like F Facebook, and so they all started chanting it and stuff, and they're
my
like,
God,
we're not going anywhere. This is just a fad, it's called more like fad book or something like that. And they're like, we're not going anywhere. And it was like 2 years later, MySpace was gone.
gone.
Yep. So
Ah, the good old days.
the good old days when you thought that everything.
MySpace and Roadrunner Records and
Right. Oh gosh. Oh, I miss those days, Dan. It was so
and
good.
Ozfest. At least we're getting Ozfest back in
That's
some
true.
some way,
Some sort of
shape, or
fashion.
form.
I
But
just hope it has the same sort of feeling to it, where they don't just turn it into like a cruise ship tour.
only time will
Another one of
tell.
them,
Only
So,
time will tell.
yep,
So,
we'll see.
anyways, well, cool, man.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for
Yeah,
everybody for hanging in there as I went
yeah,
off I think I had like 2 rants today.
yeah. You went down a couple of
It's been a
roads.
Monday. You're probably like, dude.
Like, hey, bro.
That's It's almost tomorrow. Anyways.
yeah, it's almost tomorrow. Yeah,
Well,
but
again, thanks everybody. Please like,
appreciate it,
comment,
guys.
share with all your friends. Please do.
Yeah.
Because we're underground, just like Roadrunner. Remember those good old days? And you just be like, hey, check out this band, check out this band. Well, check out our podcast, and please, like I said, share us around and stuff. But
Definitely.
yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Fun
Appreciate it, guys.
times. Yep.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Cool. We'll see you.
We'll see you.